Alright, I'm just gonna start this video right here. Okay, number 12. Got number 12 going here. So here's what we're gonna do. Malachi Z. York or Malachi or Malachi. I don't know how you say this name. There's a million ways to pronounce CHI. So we're just gonna go with Malachi. Um, and we are going to find out who this guy is. Now, fun fact, there was a dude. Now, how do we get here? So, yesterday, this guy dropped a 50 ball. I have no idea who this guy is. I'm pretty sure they just spawned him in yesterday. He dropped a 50 ball. And then that got me thinking about the name Malachi. So I'm like, who's Malachi? And then that got me on this guy. But then I saw this picture. And I'm like, I've seen this picture before. Right? So then I'm thinking, well, who is this guy? And this guy is Malachi Z. York. So for those of you who didn't know, this guy is in prison for a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm about to get into it right now. So, yeah, this is number 12. We're just going to get straight into it here. Let's see. York, also known as Dwight D. York. Okay. Born June 26, 45, also known as Malachi Z. York, or Issa al-Hadi al-Mahdi, is an American criminal, black supremacist, pedophile, convicted child molester, musician. This is a crazy list. Criminal, black supremacist, pedophile, convicted child molester, musician, writer, best known as the founding leader of several black Muslim groups in New York. Most notably, the Muwabian Nation, a black supremacist new religious movement that has existed in some form since the 1960s. He's 78 years old. York began founding several black Muslim groups in the late 1960s. In 1967, he was preaching to the Ansaru Allah in Brooklyn, New York during the period of Black Power movement. He founded numerous religious movements under various names between the 1960s and the 1980s. These were at first based on pseudo-Islamic themes in Judaism, Nubian Islamic Hebrews. Later he developed a theme derived from ancient Egypt, mixing ideas taken from black nationalism, cryptozoology. What is this? Oh, okay. So it's like it's like Wendigoon. Cryptids. Okay. Mixing black nationalism, cryptozoology, Christianity, UFO religions, New Age, and popular conspiracy theories. He last calls his group the United Nubian Nation of Moors, Nubian Nation, or Nuwabians. Around 1990, York and the Nubian Nation relocated to rural Putnam County, Georgia, where they built a large complex. Oh, this is the camera scrutiny. They built the Tama-Re. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this is the pyramid thing. Yeah, this is crazy. This guy built a. This is crazy. He built a whole pyramid. They don't have any good pictures of it. That's a nice looking pyramid too. This Black John right here. They got another one over here. And they got one here. Yeah, that's crazy. He was all good until he built pyramids. And they're like, nah, you're going too crazy. An Egyptian themed compound for about 100 of his followers. Before his trial, the community had joined directly in the area by hundreds of other followers out of state while alienating both black and white local residents. The community wasn't he was a cult leader. The community was intensively investigated after numerous reports that York had molested numerous children of his followers. He and his group were originally based in Brooklyn, New York, and some of them relocated to Athens, Georgia after his arrest. York was convicted in 2004 of child molestation and violations of the Racketeer RICO Act. He's serving a 135-year sentence. Wow. York and his wife Kathy Johnson were arrested in 2002. 2004, he was convicted on federal charges of transporting minors across state lines for the purposes of child sexual molestation, as well as racketeering and financial. Okay. York's case was reported as the largest prosecution for child molestation ever directed at a single person. Hmm. He was born in Boston. Other sites say he was born in Jersey. Okay, they have no idea where this guy came from. Says he was born. Okay, he said he was from Boston. At age 7, he went to Egypt to learn about Islam. Um, my grandfather, upon looking into my eyes, foretold I was the one who would possess the light. Okay, we're gonna go Reddit on this one. Why is Malachi York in jail? Reddit. Um, what is this? Oh, he believed in this. Okay, here we go. Rabbit hole time. Whoa, there's a lot of ads here. Oh man. I'm just trying to figure out if he had hundreds of followers, what was he talking about? And close this. Alright, so this is the best picture I found of this Tama-Re compound that he built in Georgia. This thing is awesome. I'm okay, he was touching kids, that's fucked up. But this is awesome. Look, he's got a sphinx. He built a sphinx, and then he built not just one, not just two. He built like 6 pyramids. Like there's pyramids over here. There's one here. There's one here. There's like tiny little ones everywhere. And then there's like this isn't even the full picture. There's like more on this side. So this is awesome. Unfortunately. And yeah, just gonna get back into it. This article here. So he builds this thing, whatnot. It was originally called Kadesh. Um, maybe that's a reference to Kush. I have no idea. Um, okay, so 1970 says he traveled to Africa, Sudan, and Egypt in particular. He met and persuaded members of Mohammed Ahmed Al Mahdi's family to finance him to set up a cell of their organization in the United States. This was to be a West or American political wing of Sudan's Ansar movement. under Sadiq al-Mahdi. He began to develop Umma Party. That's a cool logo. He began to develop the claim of his Sudanese roots in order to authenticate his American branch of the sect. After York returned from a pilgrimage to Egypt and Sudan, he invited Sadiq al-Mahdi to the US. In 1970, his group changed its name to Ansaru Allah Community in the West. A 1993 FBI report described this group as a front for a wide-range criminal activity including arson, welfare fraud, and extortion. Arson? The women of the Ansaru Allah community focus on memorizing history as their imam sees it. What is an imam? Oh, it's like a priest. Okay. Learning Arabic, incorporating Sudanese etiquette into their mannerisms, and memorizing the Quran. They participate in the compilation of various texts produced by the community and also work in the recording studio. That sounds kind of fun. Other than this work, the women's main source of income comes from the U.S. government public assistance and monies earned by the men in various enterprises such as food shops, jewelry, merchandise stores, and street vending. Okay. Uh, Says he was based in Coney Island for a time and operated a bookstore and a printing press on Flatbush Ave in the 70s. In the 80s, he was based in Brooklyn and Bushwick Ave. York students are best remembered by New Yorkers as practitioners of Orthodox Islam, members of certain New York 5% Nation of Islam, and Arabic Islamic mosques still regard the Nubians as a rival faction, but at different times they follow the paths of Christianity and Judaism. Operations located to Liberty near the Catskills. Oh, they relocated to Liberty near the Catskills around 1991, and then Georgia in 93. The community in Brooklyn reported as identifying as the Holy Tabernacle of the Most High and also as the Children of Abraham was said to be led by Rabboni Ishua Bar El Hadi, uh, practicing a mixture of Judaism and Islam. They were reported as numbering about 300 people in 1994. The group reportedly still owned 9 apartment buildings, of which 5 were in tax error. I don't know what that is. What does this mean? What does this word mean? Oh, it owed, means they owe taxes. Okay. Uh, Local politicians were concerned that the abandoned buildings would become centers of uses that would damage the neighborhood. And anecdotal reports were that some of the group went to Monroe County, New York, and others to Georgia. So in the 80s, York performed as vocalist with his own groups known as Jackie Starlights and the Students of Passion. You know what's so crazy about that? I used to listen to this thing, and like I didn't know any of this, but I used to listen to this. I used to literally listen to this, and I used to listen to this also. And I had no idea. I didn't know any of this stuff. Okay. He launched his own record label named Passion Productions, uh, recording as a solo artist Dr. York. His debut release was the single "Only a Dream", later included in the album New York, Hot Melt Records UK, 1985. Passion Productions were advertised on May 4th, 1985 in Billboard magazine. Wow. Uh, later, he formed York Records, releasing the music of several successful artists. Uh, he released a single "It's Too Late" in 1986, featuring Sarah Dash of Patti LaBelle's label. In 1988, York Records released "He's Coming" by Doc McKenzie and the Highlights. Okay, there's a bunch of music. Oh wow, wow. Onyx was so these idiots who shot up the Source Awards were under were under his label apparently. Um, let's see, Ministry and Fraternal Orders. York's groups had a variety of names and functions: quasi-religious, fraternal, and tribal. They were called Holy Tabernacle Ministries, Egyptian Church of Karast. What the heck is Karast? Name of the god Osiris Kas, written at full, is Osiris the Karast. Okay. This is much darker, yeah. It says in 1990 he changed his name to Issa al Hadi al Mahdi. What does that mean? Can I get a translation? Nothing? Alright. Okay, he changed it again in 93 to Malachi York, but also adopted a number of titles and pseudonyms, including the Supreme Grand Master, Dr. Malachi Z. York, Naya Malachi Zadok L, and Chief Black Eagle. Alright, he was going off the rails. Added miracle performance to his repertoire, claimed to materialize sacred healing ash in front of his followers. What? He had 300 followers. Some settled in upstate New York. Okay, he left Brooklyn, and that's when they went to Georgia and built this thing. Let's see. Got an article here. 10 Things to Know About the Rise and Fall of Dr. Malachi Z. York. Written by Anne Brown on July 11th, 2019. So you got one cult leader and you got another cult. Says long line of like, adjectives behind his name, but what is most known for is being the creator and leader of the Black Power group United Nubian Nation of Moors or Nubians. Some have referred to this group as a cult due to its religious teachings, but it is also called a black empowerment organization. Um, Began his ministry in 1960s. 1967, he was preaching to, okay, so we already covered all this. Let's get into the 10 things here. So this is interesting. He was named one of the state's 50 most influential men by the Georgia Informer. Let's see here. It says, in his own words, York published his first book entitled Bible Interpretations and Explanations, which taught biblical theology from a skeptical point of view. And he quotes, Christianity is merely a tool used by the devil to keep you, the Nubian man and woman and child, blind to your truth. He says the devil, like referring to white people, to keep you, the Nubian, referring to black people, blind to your true heritage and perfect way of life, referring to Islam. And then he says it is another means of slavery. Okay. In 1971, he wrote a 4-part series called The Nine Balls: Liberation Information for the Wool-Haired People called the Ethiopian Race. In later lectures, York said that his initial attempts at reaching his people through this teaching failed, so he decided to adopt a more mainstream religious format. He changed his name, title, and the name of the organization. It says Beyond ET. York told his followers that he was not from Earth, but from planet Risk. We have been coming to this planet before it had your life form on it. My incarnation as an Ela, Muta Jasid, or Avatara, was originally in the year 1945 AD. Okay. In order to get here, I traveled by one of the smaller passenger crafts called Sham, out of the mother plane called Merkaba or Nibiru. This is a real thing though. Like this is a heard of that before. He's also a singer. I read that already. See, he had a bookstore, so he was just sitting reading all day. Okay, so I already read most of this stuff. Yeah, once he built that pyramid, they were like, we got to take this guy down. Now, I'm no judge or lawyer. And yeah, child molestation is messed up, but 135 years seems kind of, that's a weird number. That's a weird number. Um, I don't know why they give people sentences over 100 years. At age 19, he was convicted of statutory rape. Pleaded guilty to raping a 13-year-old girl and was given probation. However, he was imprisoned for 3 years. Okay, so this is probably the last article I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to end the video there. So this was actually published by Vice. So I'm just gonna get into this article and then I'll end the video. So it's talking about a bookstore in Brooklyn. It says from a distance, the place looks like a Fisher Price version of Cleopatra's Palace, housed in the narrow brownstone on Bushwick Avenue, charcoal paint and gold accents coats in the exterior. So in the 1970s, Dr. York actually ran a bookstore. So this is what he's talking about. I think this one near Flatbush that he used to run. So it says inside there's a few shelves of merchandise. The first, a modestly appointed book collection of conspiracy theory superstars David Icke, Alex Jones, Milton William Cooper, propped against the wall. The rest in the center of the room carry an array of self-printed booklets. Okay, so he says, I wonder in one afternoon curious about, let's go dark mode for this. Um, I wonder in one afternoon curious about passing a group of people dressed in lavish Egyptian-style tunics filtered out of the front door. I pick up one of the booklets and leaf through a long science fiction-inspired stream of consciousness. On page 15, I read a paragraph that traces Caucasian genealogy to flugel rods. What is a flugel rod? Okay. Wing wheel. Ooh, this is getting weird. I like this type of stuff though. Um, Flugel rod beings that now live in a cavern beneath the Arctic. On page 84, I learned that Caucasian women once mated with jackals, uh, so ancestors of dogs, and that the pale man still has a vestige proving this union, a tail. Huh. Keeping a watchful eye over the store for two paintings of a man with dark skin and shallow eyes. Sensing perhaps how deeply weirded out I am, a heavy-set cashier emerges from behind a card table. She tells me she is Nubian, a member of the Nubian nation of Moors, and the row of booklets I'm thumbing through hold the scriptures of her people. What is a fluoride? Moors in the early 90s shifted focus to extraterrestrial origin stories that place African Americans at the top of the universal totem pole. So their beliefs are too convoluted to sum up in a sentence, but the basic premise is that while some races share a common ancestor with modern apes, dark-skinned humans were born of an ancient superior alien species. Also central to Nubianism is an obsession with ancient Egypt, which the group believes was an all-black race. Years of archaeological debate have never settled on a definitive answer for the race of ancient Egyptians, though the Egyptians' own portrayal of themselves on tombs was of mixed race. Still, like some Christians co-opted the image of white Jesus, the Nubians claim ancient Egypt as their own. Today they wear a menagerie of Egyptian-style robes and accessories, and when it suits them speak Nubic. He created his own language? He cut his teeth in the business of spiritual deceit in the 1970s. Um, okay, that has nothing to do with anything. Blah, blah, blah. At one point, York owned 20 apartment buildings in Bushwick, where he housed around 500 people, according to the information from the Southern Poverty Law Center. The leader exercised total control over his followers, dictating where members lived, who they could date, and when they could have sex. Followers were expected to spend their days peddling York's literature and were beaten if they failed to meet their daily quotas. I don't believe that. Let's see. Teenager. Crazy thing is, 21 Savage was in this. Um, so it told me that every male in the community was also expected to perform security duties, which mostly involved standing on Bushwick Avenue with a large stick to intimidate passersby. Physical abuse inside the community was frequent, and the quickest way to a beating was to doubt the leader. Hmm. How was his wife given 2 years and he was given 135 years? After York's arrest, experts predicted that his empire would quickly crumble. In reality, hundreds remain devoted to York today, convinced his imprisonment is a consequence of white patriarchy run amok. Likewise, a handful of bookstores, all bearing the Eyes on Egypt name, have popped up across the globe, with locations in Indianapolis, Williamston, North Carolina, Monticello, Georgia, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Detroit, London, Toronto, and elsewhere. The group even has a cyber presence with an official online bookstore. What? Okay. All right. So I'm at work right now, so I think somebody is leaving. Um, this is interesting. Um, yeah, this is really interesting. Hmm. So this guy, I guess he's like the most prolific uh, black cult leader in American history. He kind of looks like he kind of looks like my dad, and he also kind of looks like Spike Lee. He also kind of looks like Andre 3000 in this picture. Hmm. Who is Jacob York? Jacob is the son of Malachi's New York. He hated his father for not being there to support his musical career. Jacob is also believed that his father is somehow responsible for his mother's death. Uh, Jacob's mother died of a brain aneurysm, which runs in her family. Her father and her older brother both died of brain aneurysms. Dang. His own son. Alright, so I can't find much about this guy's teachings. So this is from the Wikipedia page for the beliefs of the Nubians. So I'm just gonna read through this, and then I'm gonna end with some quotes from him. So it says, the Southern Poverty Law Center describes the Nubianism belief system as mixing black supremacist ideas with worship of the Egyptians and their pyramids, a belief in UFOs, and various conspiracies related to the Illuminati and the Bilderbergs. They quoted York's letter dated November 10th, 2004. Caucasians have not been chosen to lead the world. They lack true emotions in their creation. We never intended them to be peaceful. They were bred to be killers with low reproduction levels and short lifespan. Another Nubian racial origin theory has Caucasians descending from Cain. Adam and Eve were sent to the Asian islands between Asia and Europe, where they started having children, and each couple's firstborn child was an albino, and those albinos were called Cain in the Bible. Cain is short for Caucasian. Alrighty, that's the first time I heard that one. In '94, Ghazi Ghazi Y. Khan, director of the New York office of the Council on American Islamic Relations, commented about York and his group based on their history in Brooklyn. He said, it's a cult in my opinion, and in Islam there are no cults. They consider their leader a prophet, which means they have deviated from the Islamic way. The superficial similarity of York's beliefs to those of the Heaven's Gate cult lead to some worried newspaper articles after that group's mass suicide during the appearance of Comet Hale-Bopp in '97, in which the cult was reported to have said was a spacecraft. Okay, so basically, the reason he is in jail has nothing to do with child pedophilia or molestation. The reason this man is in jail is because of this. He was teaching this to hundreds of people. If you teach this to hundreds of people, they will throw you in jail. That's pretty easy to understand. Um, let's see here. So they got the language here. So pseudo etymologies. So believe is to lie to Eve's children. Okay, Caucasians, carcass Asian, degenerated Asian. Okay. Dyslexia. These are very interesting. Like, I know that there's a whole language. It's very interesting that they pinpointed these specific words. So dyslexia comes from Greek dys, Latin lexia, to go against the law. Hard to go against the law. Okay. And then they say God, Gomar, Oz, Dubar, which signify wisdom, strength, beauty. Alternatively, this word comes from reversing the letters dog. Note, Hebrew does not have the equivalent to the letter O, and the names for the equivalent letters G and D are Gimel and Dalet, respectively, which reverse the letters form the Hebrew word for fish. Okay. And then they say Jesus is a combination of Yah and Zeus. And then they say USA comes from the Egyptian word Usa or Usa, meaning eye. All right, so you got that there, and then you got some quotes over here that he has. So I'm going to read through these quotes. So he says, man's final aim should be perfection and divinity. Okay, I agree. Whenever you are at a specific time is where you are supposed to be. Fair enough. Wealth comes and goes, but good comes and grows. Be rich in good deeds. Good quote. It is not the pen that writes, it is the soul. Okay. To desire security is a sign of insecurity. Okay. Okay. Patience is self control over a long period of time. I agree. New names for old things don't change them. I agree. Each fleeting second is growth and change. You can't take away from it or add to it. Hmm. Yahuwah Elo has given you two eyes, two ears, one mouth. He expects you to watch, listen twice, and watch and listen as twice as much as you speak. Okay, he did not come up with that quote. I don't remember where I heard that, but he did not come up with that. Still a good quote though. And then the last one here is the seed of an olive tree produces many different shapes and sizes of olives, but the seed stays the same. All right, there you have it. So I'm gonna end that here, and I'll do a part two to this. Um, I downloaded a couple of his books, and they are hundreds of pages long. So definitely gonna do a part two.